Now, a new training scheme is helping people with the most common cause of blindness to read and write again. The new programme teaches sufferers of macular degeneration to see using the undamaged parts of their eyes. Sky's health correspondent Thomas Moore reports.
She's still playing golf at 85, but that's not what makes Irma Keys so remarkable. This is all she sees. Totally blind in one eye, macular degeneration has destroyed the central vision in her other. But with the help of a new training programme, she's learnt to focus through her remaining peripheral vision, looking out of the corner of her eye. She can read a scorecard. And marks on her club help to line up a putt.
I see what I hope is the pink to the yellow, and then I go through the motion and hope for the best. With this new idea of looking to the right, to the middle, I'm getting more accurate.
So that's your, what we call the window that you are trying to look through, right, so you can see things.
The technique is called eccentric viewing. Over 3 days, sufferers are taught to look away from the object they want to see. And to read, they learn to block the reflex of moving their eye across the page. The results are impressive.
Getting your eye in the right position, holding that position, and then moving the text rather than your eye can, in fact, double your reading speed.
Aidan Flynn used to be a GP. At the start of the course, he could read just 20 large print words a minute. Now he's looking forward to greater independence.
I can manage, and have managed this morning, for the first time, to read normal newsprint. And I must admit, I will be walking away from here with a smile on my face.
With the help of a £130,000 grant from the lottery, the Macular Disease Society will now roll out the scheme nationwide. 500,000 people in Britain suffer from the condition. The technique should help some of them to see once more. Thomas Moore, Sky News.
Well, joining me live in the studio now is Pete Torkington from the Macular Degeneration Society. Good to see you this morning. Thanks for coming in. How debilitating is macular degeneration?
Well, it can be very serious for people. It affects the central part of your vision, and around the periphery is unaffected. So people can see to get around, but things like reading and driving and recognising people can all become impossible or very difficult.
So let's focus on this new training scheme in place, this lottery cash coming forward for it. Yeah. What does it actually involve? Because you have this yourself.
Yes, yeah, and I went through the training last year, so I know how it feels to be trained. The technique is called eccentric viewing, and it's been around a while, but there's never really been a nationwide training programme, which is what the Macular Disease Society have now produced. And the principle behind it is to help people to learn to use the periphery of the vision, which is unaffected, rather than using the central vision. And it feels very strange when you start, because from when we're babies, we learn to look at things. So when we want to read, we look at the words that we want to read. And with the technique eccentric viewing, you're trained to use a different part of your eye. So let's say instead of looking at, look just above or just below, whatever works for you, and then start to read the words using that different part of your eye. And it sounds simple, but it feels very strange at first.
And what quality of vision can it give you?
Well, it will never be perfect. I think it's fair to say that. It doesn't mean that people can all of a sudden do things that somebody with perfect vision can do. But what it does do is once people have practiced and got used to it, it means they can read text or writing a lot smaller than they could do previously. And the real benefit is that it means that people can read faster and for longer.
So it could actually make a significant impact on people who are struggling with what in effect would be almost complete blindness in terms of what they can actually do around the home or whatever.
Very much so. There are people who are registered blind. It doesn't mean to say they're completely blind, but they're certainly registered legally blind, who've used the technique and are able to read quite small writing. And the good thing is it gives people back some of the confidence that they've lost.
How much is this lottery cash which is going into this? How important is that to get these training schemes running up and down the country? Because,
yeah,
is it not just easily available ordinarily?
It's not. In this country it isn't. In places like Sweden and certain states in America, it's part of the rehabilitation process. So when they develop macular degeneration, it's part of their training. In this country, unfortunately, health and social services haven't picked it up. So the grant, the £131,000, is going to make a huge difference. We're going to do a lot of good with it. We've got a training programme over the next 2 years. We're running 20 train the trainer courses, so everybody that we train will actually become a trainer themselves. So the intention is to have a network across the country of people locally who can train on the technique.
Am I right in thinking macular degeneration normally affects older people?
Yes.
And in that sense, is it more difficult to train? Presumably as people do get older, they would find it more difficult to learn these new techniques.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think, and certainly the way we approach the training is that it, rather than try and rush somebody, we take time, because it can be, for some people, they can learn in half an hour. For some people, it takes a little bit longer than that. But the difference that it makes is that it gives them back some of their independence as well.
What about medical treatment for macular degeneration? Because some people could say, well, this training sounds excellent, but does this mean that it's a last resort, that any sort of medical interference in this hasn't worked?
Well, you're right to say this isn't a medical treatment, this is rehabilitation. And there are some treatments. There are different types of macular degeneration. And the main two types are dry and wet. And there are some treatments now for the wet type of macular degeneration, but not so available in this country, not yet anyway.
So is there a sense that this is your best chance, if you like, as it currently stands?
Well,
this sort of rehabilitation?
Yeah, this is rehabilitation that anybody can benefit from, whether they've got the dry or the wet, whether they've had it for 10 years or it's newly developed. And they'll have gone through the sort of the downside of losing the ability to read and to recognising people. And this is kind of the upside of it. It helps people learn to read again. So
for those people who are affected by this, and it must be an awful thing to have to come to terms with, there is light at the end of the tunnel, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a positive step, you know, and there aren't many positives, so this is good news.
Indeed. Pete Talkington from the Macular Degeneration Society. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Steve.